We got Gilby Clarke hanging out with us.
It's great, and he comes here quite a bit, don't you?
Yes, I've come to Sturgis almost every year. I don't even remember the last time I haven't been here.
Do you remember the first time you came out here?
Yeah, I do. It was like about 25 years ago. One year, a buddy of mine had been talking about going to Sturgis, so he lived in Portland, I lived in L.A., and we met in Sacramento. And so we both rode out, and we met in Sacramento. When we got there, his bike started making noises, and it just died. And so I had to make that decision. Do I go on by myself or do we pack it in? So I decided to pack it in. I go, you know what? I'll just come back next year. We'll make it. I didn't go for 20 years.
Really?
Yep. It took me 20 years to come back, and I did it on my own. I ended up going, you know what? I can't wait any longer. I took off from L.A. and did it myself.
I mean, you rode in here today.
Yeah, yesterday. I rode in yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, just so you were, I didn't even hear him come in. He killed the engine before he even got.
Trying to be,
here. How much time do you spend on a motorcycle?
I'd say that a lot. Whenever, obviously music is my job. But when I'm at home in my spare time, I have a garage, and I actually have built 2 of my own bikes, and I spend a lot of time, we do some camping trips. We go to Mexico on our bikes. A lot.
Do you ride your bike when you're on tour?
No, not on tour. Just number one, we usually don't have the room for it. Number two, it is kind of hard to ride up to show your hands are a little swollen. Yesterday, a little swollen.
Talk about the bikes you built.
Yeah. Well, I actually like vintage motorcycles. So I have a 1941, a 47, and a 65. And the 47 and 65, I actually built myself from scratch, like frame up.
How long did that take you? Because we've seen it on TV. They do it in about an hour, right?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe 2 hours.
They do have a little editing going on. But, I mean, my first one took me about 6 months to build. My second one about 3 months. It doesn't take that long.
You just love it that much.
I really do. I enjoy it. I mean, even when I was a kid, I was into motorcycles and I had them. And then, back in the 80s, when the whole L.A. Sunset Strip scene was happening, we had a great club in L.A. called Cat House, and that's what we all used to do is ride our Harleys to the club and, hang out all night and party and, do stuff.
Talk about that marriage between riding and rock. I mean, it just fits so good together.
Well, the way I look at it is, musicians, for the most part, are modern-day outlaw. It's like most people got into rock and roll because of the freedom aspect of it. Some of us just aren't good at, getting up at 8 o'clock and going home at 5 o'clock. So it really was a reason to just kind of do your own thing. So in that way, that really was the old, Wild West outlaw kind of thing. And we're not allowed to ride horses down the street, so we ride motorcycles.
When it came to music, man, when did you first realize this is something that I have to do?
I was young. I'd say probably like 12 or 13 years old. I actually saw a poster of Jimi Hendrix in a store. I was we had those head shops back in those days. You remember those? And I saw a poster of Jimi Hendrix, and I just thought that he was the coolest looking dude I've ever seen. It had nothing to do with music. It had to do with the appearance of Jimi Hendrix. And when I go, wow, that's cool. Wow, he's playing guitar. Wow, I like guitar. And that really just kind of made me get into it. I started, listening to AM radio and, just one at a time. Like, at that time, bands like Kiss, Alice Cooper, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith. So that's what really kind of got me hooked.
You talk about the look. That's another thing about, guys in bands. Mm-hmm. When you're, besides here, you can kind of hide a little bit, but when you're in a regular town and you're walking around, people, they kind of think, that guy's in a band, even if they don't know if you are or not.
We're pretty easy to pick out. God forbid we do a crime because we go to line up there and go, it's the black-haired guy.
When you pick up a guitar and when you start playing and you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to play, when did you realize you could make a living doing this and it wasn't just going to be fun and a hobby?
Well, it's actually interesting you asked that because when I was in high school, at that time there were a lot of bands. I had actually moved to I was raised in Cleveland, Ohio, but I moved to Los Angeles right when I started high school. And I was in bands just like everybody. There were so many bands. There were a lot of good guitar players in my school. And we did the dances, all that kind of stuff. We played in Hollywood a couple times. And then when I actually quit school to play music. I had a job at a music store. I played in a band. I went to school, and one of them had to go. I was getting worn out, so I picked just being in music. And what I didn't understand at that time was there were a lot of other guitar players that were better guitar players, better singers. I never really understood anybody that kind of gave it up. I was just kind of ignorant, if anything. I just kind of like put my head down and just went. I didn't think about it. I just did it.
It just happened.
It just really happened. I mean, you just have to just keep going. Like I said, just kind of be a bull and just go, this is what I want, this is what I like, and I'm going to keep doing it until somebody tells me I can't.
You look back on that era and you talk about the Cat House and the Strip and everything. There's nothing like that that's ever happened before or after.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that era.
Yeah, I mean, it really was, at that time, we didn't know that it was special. It was just what was happening at that time. I mean, it was from things that started and developed into what it was. And more than anything, we just wanted a place to hang out, meet girls and drink and party. And that's what it was. It's just years later when it all kind of disappeared that we realized what a special time that was, that, the camaraderie. I mean, the band guys, we all got along with each other. And you look at us years, we're talking 30 years later, and most of us are in each other's bands again, And I just did this tour with Faster Pussycat, Bullet Boys, and Quiet Riot. I've worked with every single person that was on that tour before. Everyone.
You've worked with them. How difficult is it to keep a group of guys together for any length of time to keep going in the same direction?
Well, I mean, the money makes a big difference. It's like, we got our eye on the green prize, But I mean, I think at this point we're all smart enough to realize, look, we're better in numbers. I mean, if you look out right now, what is it? Aerosmith and Slash are together. Alice Cooper, Motley Crue. Kiss and Def Leppard, everybody's kind of packaging up together. It's strength in numbers. So I think we all just, we just want to do what we do. We play music, we want to do it for a living, and that's how we do it.
Do you enjoy going to shows and watching other bands play, or do you go just to say hey and kind of hang out and then move along about your business?
No, I still love music. I just went to see Def Leppard and Kiss, and I knew every song that both bands played. and I do. I sit in the audience. I actually don't, I'll go backstage to say hello and things, but I love music, and I think that is obviously something that's missing nowadays. Is we do need some new rock and roll. We need the young kids to pick up the rear. We did. Before us it was Beatles, Stones, and then Zeppelin, Kiss, and then it was Guns N' Roses and Metallica, and then Pearl Jam and Nirvana. And we need someone to pick up the rear.
You talked about that Jimi Hendrix poster, and then through the years, all those bands you talked about, kids saw those posters and we knew everybody in all those bands, and we knew every song, and there's not that anymore. You can mention a band and you don't know any of the guys in the band, and you might know the song that's on the radio, but you don't know any of the other tracks. You're right. We really need something. It's a
different. Yeah, it's a different time. I mean, in a weird way, it was inevitable. I mean, it's just the evolution of music. It's evolution of our society. I mean, nowadays, like even on television, I mean, they make a star out of anybody. I mean, from the world we grew up in, you actually had to have that little extra special, whether it was drive or talent or whatever, to be able to have success. Now, there's a lot of average talent, and drive out there that are being successful. It's just a different time, that's all.
But you say they make a star out of anybody, and they might make a star for them for 6 months, but then that quickly fades. That just goes away so quickly. That's got to be frustrating for a guy who's worked his ass off all his life. All of a sudden, somebody gets on TV, they sing, and bang, they're a star.
Well, you're right. It is frustrating. I mean, but I also, of course, I do feel frustrated, but in the back of my mind, it's like, I use that to drive me. I use it to drive me to try to write a better song, to try to do something that's going to change what's happening. I mean, I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I took her to Coachella a couple years ago, and they have this big tent. Actually, they had like 3 tents, and each tent had about 5,000 to 7,000 people in it watching a DJ.
Brutal. I don't get it.
I don't get it either, but obviously, I mean, I hate to be the old man there, but I mean, I'm watching these people. I mean, of course they're dancing, but they're watching a guy check his emails on his computer. So and like I said, wrapping my head, that's the frustrating part, and I'm seeing that, and look, I get that times change, and I get it. But, I also, they need to realize there are some other things. There are some good bands that might be a few years older than you, but they still are really good,
There's something about, you get that guitar, bass, drum, and a really good singer together and just playing a good old-fashioned rock and roll song. It just, it can really catch you and have some sort of meaning. And
when it's good, it's good. When it's good, it's good. And that's the thing is, we also need to take responsibility for ourselves, saying we owe it to put on a good show, to not do it half-assed just because we're not making what we're making. You still got to sing well, still got to play well. And I think that, there are some bands out there that are responsible of not playing well, and unfortunately there are some bands that get a lot of exposure these days just because they were iconic 25 years ago that really aren't doing well right now. So
I got $1 says he won't name names.
I didn't hear that.
I said I got $1 says you won't name names.
Of course not. I might need a job in another 6 months.
So sitting down and you're getting ready to go on tour and you get some guys together. How do you figure out what to do for a show then?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, for myself, I do this for a few reasons. Number one is, this is my job. I'm a musician. No matter what else I try in life, this is what I do best. I play guitar. So when I'm doing a show that just has my name on it, I've put out a few records on my own. They haven't hit the charts like I'd like them to do, but so I play some songs from that, and then I just play songs that move me. So, I'll do some Stones, do Beatles, some Bowie. Of course, most people, 99% of the people know me from what I did with GNR. So I'll throw in a couple GNR tunes, some Slash the Snake Pit tunes. In my mind, it's all just rock. So when people ask me, what do you play? I don't know. I just play rock and roll, man. I turn my guitar up really loud and I yell over it.
When you start mentioning names of people you played with, you go down the line. Do you just look back and go, wow?
No, see, that's not the kind of person I am. I go, what haven't I done? It's just the way I am. It's like I said, I do take responsibility, and I go, look, if I want people to stop asking me questions about Axl Rose, well, I need to do something that's bigger than Guns N' Roses. And obviously, I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to keep trying, and that's what my drive is.
What are you going to do with the rest of your Sturgis after you get done here? Are you sticking around, or are you going
I am going to stick around. I'm going to probably go with Full Throttle and check you guys out.
Cool. Awesome.
I'll probably, the Colts playing tonight at Buffalo Chip.
Oh, yeah.
I really want to see that, but I'm playing tonight. I'm going to go, Michael Lichter's opening his exhibit at the Chip tomorrow. I'm going to go check that out.
Well, very nice, man. Thanks for taking the time and sitting down with us.
You're welcome. It's good to get out there and let's support some rock and roll out there.
There you go. It's Gilby Clarke. It's Stone and Double T, Real Rock Radio, 104.9 The X.